Welcome to another classic car case. So this is part 2 of the torsion bars adjustment. As I said in the last video where I was taking the car apart, this is only one way of doing it. There are many different ways. One of the guys that I spoke to years ago, John Carey, the way he's been doing it is he actually, once the bolt is out, which is in the recess of the front of the bar, of the torsion bar, he pushed the bar through the other way. So instead of coming out past the kind of trunnion bit, where I was talking about the bad castings can catch the torsion bar or the splines, he was knocking them out the other way. So and this is why there's a hole in the back of the plate, in the back of the reaction plate, so you can knock it through that way. The issue for me has always been that I never had the teardrops or the anchors at the back pressed off, and I tried everything to get them off apart from a bigger press, and they just wouldn't come out. And one of them had actually been damaged, so I thought, you know, better leave well alone. Then very expensive to get these torsion bars, and I thought I'll leave well alone and just turn them from the front. But obviously I encountered this situation where it was actually hitting the outside of the casting, and this is why I said you need to kind of clean them off. It's still quite difficult, but they have to be turned. So I got another comment from a guy that's his name's Bill White, and he's been looking at the videos for years. I mean, hopefully the videos have come on better from when I first started with a little kind of small camera to what I have now, and I hope they're better. But I'm not a filmmaker, so if you're kind of looking for buttery shots and trick photography or trick editing, this is not the channel to be looking at. There's plenty of young guys out there that can do all that kind of stuff on nonsense, basically, but they seem to get the views, so good luck to them. Anyway, yeah, so Bill mentioned something which is a good point. I thought he was being a little bit negative, and then I got another message back from him saying, you know, he was just making a point, which I think is a fair point, and I want to bring it up. The point he made is when the suspension is first set up, you use a bar basically from the top of the shock absorber down onto the arm, onto this arm down here where the bottom shock goes, and that's made of a certain length, and you can check this in the E-Type Jaguar manual, and it'll tell you exactly what the center to center should be. And that will give you the initial ride height, so you should be able to do it from that if you don't have one of these adjustable reaction plates. And I used this same thing. I used the same bar, but I had to change the hole length for my XK150. So I didn't show it on the original one 4 or 5 years ago on the E-Type, but I've got it on the XK150 from about 2 years ago. So if you go to Jaguar XK150 front suspension setup, it's about 2 years old. Filming's not great, I have to say, but I say it's not my forte. You can see this suspension bar. It works on exactly the same situation. The only difference was obviously it was in a different position for the XK because they've got threaded adjustment bars on them, and I was trying to get them right in the center. This is a slightly different situation. Once it's in, with a normal reaction plate, you can't move it. It is where it is, and you have to strip it down and go back and start again. So this is why I was trying to do these videos, was to try and show that they can be done. I mean, not everybody has a pit, not everybody has a ramp, so sometimes you have to do it on the ground. You know, I mean, you use what you've got. You know, fortunately, before I retired, I took my last lot of money from retirement, and I stayed a little bit longer consulting, and I used all that money to buy the stuff I had before I retired, because I knew I wouldn't have the income. That's not being a smart ass. I just thought, well, you know, I won't have it, so let's get it now before I do retire. Anyway, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to mark up these. I'm only going to do the left-hand side as you look at the front of the car, or right-hand side as you look at the car if you sit in the car. Because I will have to take the exhaust system completely off this car because I need to do some work on the back. So I'm going to take the whole exhaust system off anyway to get to the one on this side. So I'll bring you back once we've done that. Just a quick one, I just want to show you here, you can see I've put this I'll bring you back out, sorry. You can see I put these tie wraps together here to hold the suspension up, because what you don't want to do is damage this flexi hose on the front. So this is a thing that you really need to do, or set it, or take it off, whichever, because it's a very heavy unit. So, we'll crack on with the rest of the video. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I've loosened off the pin, which actually goes into a groove on the side of the spline here, and all that does is stop it moving backwards and forwards. I mean, when it's under tension, it's very unlikely, but this is what they've done. This is a kind of boot and braces. So I've slackened the pin off. I've taken the one out on the other side, and this is it here. These are very handy, these magnetic, because you can even put them on sideways. You can see. You can even do it like this. Very handy to keep all your nuts and bolts, and you get them different sizes. So what I'll do is I'll just take this out. So I'll bring you in just so you can see where I'm talking about. So you can see the bolt here. So I'll just take that off. It's a very small nut and bolt. I'll bring you back out. So it's a very tiny nut and bolt that goes into it, but very important piece of kit. So now all the tension's off. What I've done now is I've dropped it so there's no tension on these arms whatsoever. So I could actually keep this upright, because I've got this now strapped up on the top here to stop this flexi getting damaged. It's as upright as I really need it. The weight that's on it is the weight, obviously, of the discs and the calipers and backing plates and hubs and so on, bearings. So, but it won't be able to come down any further because I've got it set up exactly and I've measured it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the adjustable reaction plate at the back, and I'll undo the nuts there so I can actually move and push this forward. But what I can do in this case is I can use the teardrop to move it forward. I can lever it off and push the whole teardrop forward. But what I'll first do is mark these splines where I need them. What I basically need to do is maybe go up one, or move it one spline, and then bring the back anchor into a central position so I can go up or down. That's the best option for me. So I'm going to do that now. All the weight is off these bottom wishbones, and you can see the position of the torsion bar and this drop arm here. Obviously this torsion bar wouldn't be able to come through. You can see it's caught here. So obviously now there's no weight on these. I'm going to have to lift this up so it can slide along the side here rather than in that position it's in now. I'll just bring you in and show you what I mean. So you can see, just bring you back a little bit. So you can see that position there, and you can see this is going to obviously catch on here. So we need to bring those arms down so we can pull it through. But there is no tension on these at all now. It's only the weight of the calipers and the calipers, the discs, and so on and so forth. The stub axle. So what I'll do is I'll bring one forward so you can actually see it coming out. What I'll actually do is I'll lift this up, and then you can see it coming out. So I'm going to lift it up now. I've gone up a bit on these arms, and now I can knock this forward because the spline will come forward, and you'll see it now. I'll just knock it forward and you can see it working. So what I'll do is I'll bring you in first, then you can see it coming out. And there you can see I can actually turn this. So you can see I've got them lined up, and now here it might just show. I'll try and bring it out a bit more, and I'll bring the rod forward, and you might be able to see the recess in the torsion bar. You can see there that where this pin is going through to hold it in position, and then you can see the splines So what I'll do is I'll reline this back up, pull it back through into the position where I want it, and then I'll show you another clip. I'll just bring it in a bit so you can see it. You can see it's exactly one spline. So the arm, basically the arm is further down now. You can see that's where the spline it was on, and you can see it's now on that one behind it. Sorry about the bad, poor camera work. But you can see that's, so what that's going to do is give us more strength in the torsion bars, which will lift the height of the car. It's only one spline. So, just to finish up for the night, I found the bar. This shows in the XK Bible and the E-Type Bible. This is an adjustment bar for the torsion bars. This particular one I made for the XK150, which is 37.8, and for the E-Type it's 45.24 centimeters, and this is center to center. So as you can see there, I've already marked it out there, and I've punched it, so tomorrow I'll drill a hole in it, and this will go on the top part for the shock absorber, and then this one will go on the lower trailing arm where the shock absorber sits, and that will give us the exact height that we should have, the right height that we should have. And I'll check that with what I've already done just to make sure before I put it all back, because it has been a lot of work to put this together, particularly on my own. It's very difficult to lift things up when you're trying to stretch across the ramp. And in the, if you look into the, this is the E-Type Bible. This has the 3.38 and the 4.2, and it has an appendix for the 4.2 cars and automatics and so on. So in there you can see, I'll just quickly show you, but you can see there is the bar that they're talking about making. And it's just a piece of bar, piece of box. It could be a piece of plate even, but it has to be fairly precise. And if it doesn't line up with them, this is the first way to do the suspension setup, and you'll see this in here. So that's what I'll do tomorrow. I did have the original one for the E-Type, but it's been so many years that I must have used it or scrapped it, and then bought the XK much later, because you know it's like with material, you tend to put it away in a pile and then use whatever you can, offcuts and so on. But I remember doing this particular one because I wanted to make the end rounded so that it didn't catch when it went inside. So that's what I'll do. So what I'll do is I'll keep this once it's done and it works, and I'll just keep one side for the XK150s and the other side for the E-Type, and then it's a bar that I've always got. Possibly put even a top on it there to give it some. I don't think it actually needs that strength, because as long as there's no weight in the torsion bars, there's no pull on this top piece, and there isn't. It's only once the torsion bars are reset up again there's tension in them. So anyway, I'll make this tomorrow morning, and I'll just double check to make sure it's good. So on that note, this is the end of part 2. Hopefully you've seen how I've gone through it. As I say, there are many ways to skin a cat, and this is only just one way. Other people do it from the back, other people take the whole wishbone off and reset it up. But obviously if you set it up in the first place, the problem for me was I used the original torsion bars, and I would imagine, you know, metal being metal, there is some probably memory loss in it over a period of time. I would imagine. I don't know how these torsion bars were made, but I certainly know from working in the oil business, where we used to use a thing called coil tubing, and you used to get this elastic and plastic region. So this is where it was bending over a gooseneck, and we only had so many cycles with it. And I would imagine that's pretty much the same, even though what we're talking about is really, really thick steel. Anyway, on that note, stay safe, keep the faith, enjoy your hobby, and I'll catch you in part 3 when I start putting it back together. Thanks for watching. Bye.